Hi, I'm Harvey Guillen.
Hello and welcome to the Box Angeles podcast with me, yours truly, your fearless, avoidant host, Mike Elder. Little housekeeping really quick. Thank you for listening to the show. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and a review. It'll help other people find the show. It will spread the show to more people. And by doing that simple little ask, that'll take you nothing but 20 seconds. It could change somebody's life. We've got a really fun episode this week. I spoke to actor Harvey Guillen. You'd recognize Harvey from shows like What We Do in the Shadows, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. He was in my favorite movie of the year, Companion. Go see Companion if you haven't seen it. He's also done a ton of voice work on shows like Archer, Harley Quinn, in movies like the Garfield movie, Puss in Boots, Wish. He's so talented. He's done a lot of stuff with the Emmys recently, too. He was at the Creative Arts Emmy. He did the Emmy nominations announcement. So he's been around, and you've definitely seen him on your television. We had a nice conversation. Harvey told so many great stories. We talked about self-tapes versus in-person auditions, how Harvey always prioritizes Zoom auditions and being in person. We talked about how he always has his agents run offers and opportunities by him. He wants to say no. He doesn't want them saying no on his behalf, and how that has led to taking one-line auditions that turn into bigger things because he did so well with that one line. It's a really cool conversation because he's had so much experience with this, and we talked about his team and how often he meets with them at his level. I really like this convo. Harvey was great. Like I said, he told so many fun stories about being on set and booking things, so this one does not disappoint. You're in for a treat. So, without further ado, I'll give you Harvey Guillen. Hi, Harvey.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. I don't know if you remember, but I reached out via email because I saw Companion.
Yeah.
It's the best film of the year, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's your words, not mine, but I'm just quoting them. Yeah.
Well, I just had Matt McCarthy on, who was at the end of the film. I don't know if you guys really did anything. You probably wouldn't have done anything together, but I told him the same thing. I was like, this movie was incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you the same question I asked him. When you got that script, did you think anything of it? Did you think it was going to be a little...
I mean,
because I don't think I'm the only one saying it's the best film of the year.
No, I think it's really good. I think I got the script and I had a meeting with the director, Drew, and we just talked about it, and I was really excited for the twist in it. That if you haven't seen it, what are you waiting for? There's a little nice twist in it that I really liked, and the characters make choices with moral compasses that.
Are you talking about the overall twist or the twist? Dealing with your
within
character?
My character,
okay.
Yeah, and then within my relationship as well.
Yeah.
So, I like to know that my relationship was a real, organic relationship, and it wasn't fabricated, and yeah. So I could say that without giving too much away.
Yeah. Well, I hope everyone's seen it, but it was so fun, and there was twists, but they weren't crazy twists. They all made sense. You guys seemed like you were having fun in it. It was just so. Yeah. It was a joyful movie for what it was.
Yeah, we shot
which is so funny
in a summer 3 years ago. It was summertime in upstate New York, in the Catskills, and we shot that. And the cast is so great. Just literally everyone in that movie is Sophie and, Jack, and everyone is just really great. And we just spent a summer in camp because we were literally shooting near these campsites. And so our dressing rooms were little cabins. And so we were in the middle of the woods, and Meg would go and literally hide in people's cabins and scare them. So that was terrifying. That was fun. But we shot that in the summertime, and weirdly enough, it was the summer of the strike that happened. So I remember shooting my scenes, and I was done on the last day for my scenes. My last day of shooting was the dance in the dinosaur outfit. So I was doing the dance with...
such a fun scene.
Which I choreographed, because the director's like, Harvey, what do you do here? I was like, what do you mean, do the dance? Yeah, what would you do? And we're about to shoot. And I was like, aren't we shooting this right now? And he's like, yeah, do. And so I choreographed that to teach that to Lucas and to Jack. And so both had to learn it because of the memory. And I was like, I choreographed that and the one in the room, I Want to Be Where the Boys Are. That's... Yeah. I choreographed that as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Did you get a special skill bump in your rate for that?
I should have.
Choreography by?
I talked to the director about that. No, but he's great. So choreographed that, and it had to feel organic, but still choreographed, and yeah, so that was fun.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of a summer camp you had up there.
Yeah, well, actually, so the day I was shooting was the day I was in the dinosaur outfit, and then at midnight that night, I had finished my scenes. I was getting out of the dinosaur outfit, and we were waiting to hear from from the union if we were going to go on strike, and we did go on strike, and it was like the production stopped, and so we actually stopped production, to like three quarters of the way. Like it was like almost done. There was still scenes left.
But you were done.
I was done with my scene. Nice. So my part was done. Come to things got on hold for 6 months. The strike lasted half a year. And they hadn't finished the movie. So then poor Sophie and Jack have to go back and do the rest of the scenes. And remember, Sophie's in this like summer outfit. And we saw in the summer. 6 months later is winter. And she had to do scenes in the middle of the forest in the same outfit. Like at one point, she was breathing, outside, and she was creating such a smoke, like a fog out of her mouth because it was so cold. They were like, it's not going to be continuous with the season that we were before. So they made her put ice cubes in her mouth so she could not like have a smoke come out.
Wow.
And so not only are you freezing, they're like, put this in your mouth, and then you have to put ice cubes so your like mouth gets cold, so there's no heat coming out when you're talking.
Jeez.
And I couldn't believe it. I wasn't there for that. But someone told me that.
Yeah, you were at home on the couch.
I was at home. I was like warm in my bed and like comfy, and I was like, poor guys, popcorn. But yeah, I feel bad. But that's the thing you do, and that's why these cast members were so pros. Like Jack's an amazing actor, and Sophie's a fantastic. She's phenomenal. Like she learned German just to do that scene, and she sounds so good. And I was like, wait, I thought they like dubbed it. I was like, wait, no, she did it. And I was like, and I saw her at the premiere because I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen that scene film, and I was like, you learned German? She's like, yeah, I did. And she was like, she's just so cool. She's just like a cool person.
What was that audition like? What was it a self tape?
That wasn't an audition. That was an offer for.
Oh wow.
Which was that was a nice gesture. I have auditioned for so many things in my life and don't get them. So when I get an offer or something, I'm like, I question it too. I'm like, wait, why? I was like, why? What's going on? That was an offer. I had a meeting first with the director, and I think he wanted to see. My character brings like the comic relief into it, but just in a grounded way that it's subtle enough that, because it's pretty dark. It's like some of the stuff is really like, ugh. And I think even that scene when we're all hanging out. And she comes back into the room and she's covered in blood, and it's just like it has to be light before that, so people drop their guard. And it's like we're just joking and making fun of we're like, oh, holy shit, and it's like she shows up and covered in blood because it had to set up the dynamic that way. But it was just like talking to him, and after talking to him, it was just like a meeting, and then he was like, I would love for you to do this role, and I was like, great. Someone had recommended me, the casting director had recommended me, and they said you should take a meeting with him, and then. That's actually gone both ways. I've gotten meetings where like people have been like great, and I've gotten meetings with the directors where I think it's one project, because this happened recently. It's to this day it's like the most embarrassing thing. It's like you literally get not an audition, but a meeting with the director who wants to meet with you for a potential project, and you're pretty much it. You're like you're the choice. They just want to meet with you, make sure you're not crazy or whatever. And and we had a meeting where I was in Ireland doing the Comic-Con, and so the time swap and all the stuff, and I was like, it's tomorrow and blah blah, and I just got there and I told my agent, I was like, it's this director, right? It's this director, yeah, it's for this project. At the time there was 3 different projects floating up in the air that it was like whatever, and I was like, so it's this one, yeah, so it's for this project, and they said, yep, that's the one. And I double check with the team, I check with an assistant, I check with everyone's like, yep, that's the one. I go into the Zoom meeting, talk to this director. 30 minutes in, like I just like see his face completely diminish, and just like his face just drops. I'm like, oh my god, and I was like, no, this isn't this movie, is it? And he's all, no, I was gonna say because I was talking about the character, and I was like, I love the character, especially when he does.
Could he really be mad at you for that?
No, but it was clearly like an inconvenience, because he let me go for 30 minutes, and he was like, what?
And he was offended,
I love the character,
probably.
and especially when and I was throwing things out. I was just sound insane because I was just like saying things out loud, and I was just like, oh no, this is not the right project. And he goes, yeah, I was gonna say, I have to hop off now.
Wow.
And I was like, did not get it, did not do that project. And I called my agent. I was like, why did you tell me? He's like, I'm sorry, it happens. Don't worry, it happens. It was a mistake. Don't worry, it happens. And I was like, okay, well, tell him that it was like, can I please talk about the project for reals? Nope. Never heard back.
I think the lesson from that is go into a meeting and ask them to talk first.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think about this.
What do you think this project is about? But I'm really good about it. When it comes to that stuff, I'm really professional about that stuff, and I take it seriously. So I was just like, I was so like hard on myself, and was like, I should double, triple, and I did. I double checked with everyone I trusted.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you can't trust anyone.
That's really funny. That's a great takeaway. Yeah. Well, it is interesting. I totally empathize because as actors, like we don't have a lot in our control, right? Mm-hmm. But the business side of it, we do have in our control. We can submit on time. We can be prepared and things like that. So when something like that happens, I bet that is devastating to a degree. I love that you got an offer though, because do you know Matt Jones? He's like a comedic actor. You'd recognize his voice for sure. He's on Breaking Bad and Chuck Lorre shows. He did my podcast like a month ago, and he said offers don't happen. If you're offer only, you don't work. And I'm not saying you're offer only, but that clip kind of went viral on Instagram, and a bunch of like big actors were commenting on it. And
saying not true, I get off.
No, saying totally true. This is the vibe right now. And
getting an offer is such a luxury,
right?
And if you're like, that's totally right. If your offer's only, you're never going to work. You know? That's why. So my question was like, how much are you getting offered versus auditioning right now? Because you've clearly established a body of work to this point. I always say I'm never above auditioning for anything. Like I find my agents on stuff that they think is beneath me, you know, like they're like, yeah, it's like years ago. I remember I did a Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson movie, and I was riding that wave, and they requested for me to audition for a one-line role for a news show for Nickelodeon, and they requested, but we're gonna turn it down. Don't worry, it's beneath you. And I was like, whoa, what is it? It's like it's one line, and it's like okay. I was like, you know. You don't need a whole book of dialogue to be a good actor, you know? You can make a whole scene with no words. And I think with Guillermo, you know, with that show, he didn't really speak a lot in the first season because he was terrified of speaking out of turn and getting demoted and whatnot. So you can act with no words. You know, your job as an actor is to tell a story. Even, I mean, how did they do it without the talkies? You know what I mean? You just acted with your body. And so I'm never above like auditioning for something. Like, so when they said, no, it's one line, I was like, one line's a line, you know? What's the character? And they're like, oh, he's a superhero. I was like, I don't play superheroes a lot, so that's different. Yeah, and I was like, okay, so then what's the problem? Like, they're at a funeral, and I was like, oh, funeral. Is he dead? He's like, no, he doesn't die, but they're at a funeral with his family. He's family to the main cast. I was like, yeah. I was like, well, family never goes away. Family's forever. And he goes like, you okay? And I was like, I'll go audition. And it wasn't even an offer, just an audition. I go audition with the one line, I book it. And I go into the session.
Sorry, what movie is this?
No, this is a show on Nickelodeon called Thundermans.
Okay.
Which, by the way, to this day, still plays, now has found a new generation of fans and audience. I mean, I shot that over a decade ago. And now they've picked it up on Netflix. And because it's so popular, they've done 2 movies since then.
Wow.
And I was like, this is the show that had one line in. I did the episode. The creator, Jed, like, was amazing. He was like, you're so funny. He let me ad-lib. And so that one episode that was one line ended up being like a full-on scene that I ad-lib. And then 3 weeks later, they wrote another episode for me.
That's great.
And then I left to go do Eye Candy in New York. And I was like, oh, I have to leave. They're like, okay, well, let us know when you're back. I was like, okay. Went to do 1 season of a show. Young, sexy 20-something-year-old solving sexy murders in New York. It was based on the R.L. Stine book, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to be great. It's going to last forever. 1 season canceled. MTV. And I came back, you know, with my tail between my legs. Like, I'm back. And like, oh, you are? Okay. Wrote me back. That was my bread and butter. And that was a show that I pay the rent with for 4 seasons.
Wow.
So I went in for one line. And then my agents were like, don't go in. It's beneath you. And I said, don't think that could change your life. And it has. I mean, I still get residuals from Thundermans, and I've done the movie for Thundermans, and like I now get a new generation of fans. I was at a baseball game, and next to me was his dad with his daughters, and they were like, excuse me, my daughter says she knows you from something. I was like, oh, really? I was like, Shadows is probably not the show she's been watching. And she's like, Thundermans. I was like, well, how old are you? And she's like, I'm 8, and that's my sister, she's 9. I was like, they weren't even born when the show was created. Now they've watched it because it's on Netflix, and now it's their favorite show. And they're like, you're my favorite character. And I was like, wow, for the one line like guest part that I went in for.
I've brought this up so much, but I find it fascinating why reps do that. Because like they seem to think you can't go backwards. But I'm like, to your point, like, who knows what will come of this?
Yeah,
like
one line, like a one line.
It could easily blow up or easily be recognized, or the director could want you for something else later. Like, why would you pass down work at all?
Well, the irony was that before that, I made a career out of being a wild card. Even the movie that I got before that, they were like, "You're on a movie right now. You're riding high," which is the internship one. That movie was. I went into audition for a role that I knew wasn't right for me. That role was not right for me at all. But I knew that I went in there and I was like, what if it was in this moment, in this time, in this body, in this age, and this is what the character would be with me. And I go in and, audition for the director, and he's on the floor laughing. I remember him laughing on the floor.
That's a good feeling.
But then when I left, I knew I didn't book it. Like, I knew that when I left, because in the description of so detailed what that role was, I knew he was specifically looking for something in that role that I was like, it's great that he's laughing, because my goal is to obviously want to get the job. You want to book the job, but really what you want to do is you want to book the room. And I left.
You want to make a fan.
Yeah, and I left booking the room, and I was like, great. I was like, I knew in the back of my head, I was like, I didn't get this far, because I knew specifically that he was looking for like a certain height, body type, everything. And I was like, so he was laughing, and that was good. Cut to a couple weeks later, I'm shooting a movie in New Orleans, and I get a call, and it's like, he wrote a part for you. Like, they wrote a part for you in the movie. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, who am I? He's like, oh, you're in the villain team. And I was like, oh, because there's a good team and the villain team, like Slytherin or something, And I was like, oh, the villain team? He's like, yes, but you get the last punch at the end. I was like, great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I remember being in an Uber after that movie came out, and then the driver was like, and he quoted the line from the movie. So like, man down. It was like, that was the line my one line that I did in the movie. And I was like, you saw the movie? He's like, I love that movie. It's my favorite movie. And I was like, you're always someone's favorite show, favorite movie,
1,000%.
favorite character. So you never know, that one line could be someone's favorite thing ever. And so it's never beneath you to be someone's favorite thing.
Yeah.
So why?
Well, I think of like Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill did, what was it, 40-Year-Old Virgin, where he just had that one line and that launched his career.
Yeah, and he got him in front of that group of people.
Exactly.
Like Judd Apatow and them, like they recycle their actors to work with them if they like you.
As somebody who never books, I never want to book the job, or I never expect to book the job. But for me, it's like, what I'm looking for is a repeat customer. Like, I want to book the casting director so that they bring me back. And when I get a repeat customer, I always celebrate it, because I'm like, yes, I made a good impression.
Yeah.
I didn't fuck it up.
Yeah, I have the same people. Like in my life, it's been like Julie Ashton has been one of them. That constantly brings me in, and she gave me the first job was through internship. And since then, before that, she would always bring me in, and I knew that I had a friend in her. Like, it was to this day, now that like with like accolades and professional, like, she's still a friend. Like, she will bring me in for something that she's like, I think you'd be great for this. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But to have that,
an advocate.
Shout out to Julie Ashton. She's a great casting director, and like, she does believe in people. And I remember the casting directors want you to succeed.
Of course,
they don't want you to fail. They want you to come in and make their job. Like, it's like, see, I found them. That's their job, to find the right person for the job. Wants to make their job, not easier, but make it seamless. Yeah. So they want you to succeed. Allison Jones was the reason that I auditioned for Shadows. I knew it wasn't right for Shadows, and I got auditioned through like, just knowing somebody. I went to Wine and Cheese Night, and they said the next day, they texted me from an unknown number, and I met her that night. And she goes, hey.
Wait, Allison texted you?
No. I met this girl at a Wine and Cheese Night. She texted me because she got the hostess to give her my number. And she goes, hey, I met you last night. And it was like, hey, I hope you don't mind. I got the number from Mimi. You're really fucking funny. You should audition for my fiance's new show.
Why is Mimi just giving out your phone number?
That was her like close friend, and because technically the Wine and Cheese Night was supposed to be Mimi, her husband, her baby, and her brother, and that's it. And so she was the person that I didn't know was going to be there.
Sure, okay.
And so it was a small group, so it wasn't like it was stranger.
I got it.
But still, thank God Mimi did. Yeah. Because Mimi gave out that number, and she texted me. She's like, "You should audition for my fiance's new show." And I was like, "I don't do those kind of films, but thank you so much." No, I was like, "What kind of film?" And I was like, "Or what kind of show?" She goes, "It's called What We Do in the Shadows." And I was like, and I looked it up. I was like, "Oh my God, Allison Jones is casting." I've never gone in for Allison, and if you know Allison, she's cast The Office, Golden Girls, Fresh Prince, everything you ever loved, like Bridesmaids, anything you've ever loved in comedy, she has had her hand in. And so I was like, I need to go, because you're only invited to her office. So I was like, she's never invited me to her office, so this would be a good way to kind of like, go as a friend of. And I was so excited to meet her. She wasn't there when the audition
That's
happened.
funny.
And I
It
went
was
in.
Ben or somebody?
It was Ben. And then I went in and it was like, Ben said, hi, she's in London auditioning for this role. And I was like, great. And then he put the microphone on me. And I just remember I was like, this isn't the right role because it's 20 years older than I am. But what if he was at this age? That's all I went in thinking. I did it. I remember what I did. That footage exists somewhere online. Someone put that audition. And even watching me, I feel like I just fallen into Guillermo so perfectly that I even like don't recognize myself, you know?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to meet Allison. That was my whole goal. 2 hours later, they called and they said they voted unanimously from everyone, Taika, Jermaine, everyone, Paul, Stephanie Robinson, everyone to test me. I was the wild
You heard back
card.
2 hours after your audition?
Because
Wow.
there was the last role they needed to cast, and they started production pretty soon.
Got it.
And I was a wild card. I wasn't the right age. They were now going to open it up to other actors, to female. It was only open for men. Now it's female and men, which it should be. I feel like, and it was like waiting to be the wild card, waiting to test. I never tested. Eventually, they realized, why is he the only one that we voted unanimously to test, and we haven't voted unanimously on anyone else to bring back? That's clearly like, so they said there's no need for a test. We all liked him.
Yeah.
Give him the role. I never tested. And I went straight to filming.
That's great.
Yeah.
Allison, you said you go into her office. I've auditioned for her twice. Repeat customer. It's been a bit
There you
though,
go.
Allison.
There you go.
But mine were both self-tapes for her.
Oh, she's really good about...
It was post-COVID.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is your vibe on self-tapes? Do you like self-tapes? Do you prefer going in person? What is your sense of
I
that?
like going in person. I'm a people person. I feel like in the room, you can feel energy and chemistry with someone. And I feel like a reader can be different on the room than a reader, in your room and what you're doing and whatnot. Which is something that I've been thinking about. And I was just talking about Kayvon about this, where we, as actors, need a system where like...
To who? Who are you talking to?
Kayvon, who plays Nandor.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So Kayvon Nova, he and I were talking about like how actors sometimes get duped with like having a reader that's not beneficial to you, because sometimes it's just a reader who's like, watch out, I'm mad at you, I'm so mad, and it's like giving you anything, you're like, great, then if you fully go out, you kind of look insane because you're like not matching what they're giving you, but you shouldn't be matching what they're giving you. You should be giving what you're gonna give at your best. But we're like, it's a disservice sometimes for actors if you get luck of the draw of like a reader who's like, but wouldn't it be great if we can rotate like actors with actors, so it could be like, it's always going to be the best performance mirroring someone who is taking it seriously as much as you are and giving you the best performance because you're going to give them the best performance. That would make your audition so much smoother and maybe more likely to get cast.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it works usually. But it's something we're working on.
That's the benefit of the self-tape, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the self-tape to me is like, it's got some good things going for it, which is you can choose your reader. You can have a couple different takes. You don't have to just knock it out of the park the first go. But at the same time, you lose that personality, that connection, that sort of nerves and excitement that you get from going in person.
Yeah, it's true. And I feel like I rather go in person though, but the luck of the draw is like, who's going to read with you that day? But in the moment, there's always moments for adjustments because we send self-tape, they're like, he didn't get it. Like, he didn't get that. Damn, I should have, oh well. And they move on. As opposed to in person, like, very last minute, we talk to the writers. Don't play it that way because we thought so too. But now we found out that they don't want you to. So in the moment, you can get a last minute tweak and adjustment. It's like, oh my God, thank God I know now.
Yeah.
Because I was about to play it this way.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we would have accepted it that way too, but we just found out,
So they've been offering a lot, like when you get a self-tape, they say, we have a few Zoom audition slots if the actor wants to read with casting. Have you done any of those?
I have. I would take it because I will give an opportunity to give adjustments in the moment in the room.
So you always take it as long as you can.
I always take it. I just like to get direction because I'm pretty good at being given direction. Like I had a director who said that it's like, it's easy to direct you because when you direct it, when I tell you words, it shifts things in you, as opposed to like, just do whatever, it's supposed to like, yes, just more lean into sound, think of, words that are like, and then you like lock that in as an actor, and then you're like, here it is, as opposed to like, if you just do it on the tape, you already have one mindset, and you're like, it's like this, that's it.
Yeah.
I thought of it that way.
Well, it's funny. I have a legit guest star miniseries audition later this afternoon, and I opted to do the Zoom audition. It's my first time rather than doing a self-tape. I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
I think it's
let
best.
me turn on my performance anxiety and see if we can knock this out of the park. And I last night I was like, I should have done a self-tape. What am I doing? I'm gonna be fine.
Dude,
I'm gonna knock it out of the park. But like last night I was like, I should have done a self-tape. It's not in my control. But it is that thing of like, you want that, and you're right. Like if I'm way off or they got new information, they're hopefully going to give it to me and adjust. And
I think it's going to be great. I think it's for the best, because you're going to be like, okay, because you might walk away and whatever the outcome is, hopefully it's the best thing ever. But even if you walk away, we're like, lesson learned. Like that was good to know. Like, well, I always take everything as a stepping stone. Like everything I do, every show that I book or any movie that I book, it's all stepping stones in the right direction. If you're doing this for a living and you want to do it because it's your love and your craft, you can't imagine doing anything else. People always say, I think I want to be an actor. It's like, if you think you want to be, it doesn't sound like you want to be. And if you think it, I would think about doing something else, because you got to love what you do.
Oh, yeah.
Because the highs are high and the lows are low. And that's just the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could be at your peak today, and then tomorrow you're at the bottom. And that's just the way the system works. And if you don't have the thick skin, and you don't have that mentality of like it's just temporarily, these are all stepping stones in the right direction. If you can't stand the anxiety of it, I would always say do something else that you love, because it's going to be painful at one point. And if you are willing to put up with the pain because the highs are going to be worth it, then stick with it. I always say that if you find something else that you love, do that. Because if people do, people are like, I've seen so many actors who I've become friends with, they're in town, and the next thing I know, I'm like, hey, where are you? I moved. And it's like, oh, weird. What are you? He's like, I'm not doing that anymore. And it's like, oh, okay. And then I see a new group of friends, and I'm like, become friends with a new actor, and then I see them, we do a show together, I meet something, and then a couple years later go by, I'm like, where'd you go? I moved. That town's not for me. And it's like, oh, are you guys? Oh, okay. So you're acting. He's like, no, I'm a teacher now, or I'm doing this, or more to you. But like,
well, it's one of those things too. I started doing improv, and it was like, I like the performance high. I love the rush of a performance. So like when we do this, this is my backdrop right here. When we do the Zoom audition later today, I'm going to feel great after. I'm going to feel cloud nine. Yeah. So it's going to be great. When you do self tapes, do you coach ever? Do you have like somebody you work with, or are you confident in what you can do? You mentioned you take direction well. So
I take direction well. I don't really coach unless it's something like with a strong dialect or like an accent or something. Then that's when I don't want to just wing it. I've taken dialect coaches for certain accents and whatnot, which is ironic. One time I had an audition, and I was kind of like, why do I have this audition? They're like, they want you to see you for it, and I was like, oh, and it was definitely like profiling, because I was early on in my career, and it was for like something Middle Eastern, and I was like, oh, and they're like, okay, and they're like, and it's a bit of an accent, and I was like, but they know that they know, but they just want to see everyone. I was like, huh. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to like be, like I'm just throwing this and pretending and doing a stereotype. So I literally talked to someone, and I was like, how would I even say this and that? And like, it's like, I'm not going to get this. This isn't the right thing to do. And it's also like early on in my career, I was like, why are these auditions happening? Like where people are going in, and I was like, and I remember thinking, and the funny part is that I went and I was like, okay, here it is. And I auditioned, and I got a call back for the role, and they were like, is he? And I was like, no, I'm not. And then it was like, oh, because the director thought he was, because the dialect was pretty close to. And I was like, that's because I took the time to go and work with someone who specialized, and like getting that, and like I didn't want to half-ass it. And then, but also at that point, that's when I kind of told my manager at the time, I was like, I don't think this is, I'm gonna bounce. I don't think this is kind of, so I bailed.
Good for you.
And I was just like, I don't think this is kind of right.
Good for you.
And it's like, well, but they said you sound. I was like, I know, but it's not right,
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that they were okay. And then I got a call back. That goes to show that you could work really hard to be something. Doesn't just mean that it's the right thing to do.
You did that early on? You said no. Wow. Like,
yeah.
For me... For me, I would take anything, honestly. But like,
I just felt like
when you're early on, like that's hard to say no.
I thought I would have been omitted by omission. Like I would have been like, no, he's definitely not right. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll take the audition to meet the casting director, but I'm sure I'm not going to make it past.
Yeah,
it wouldn't make sense to. But I did the work on my own still, and went with the dialect coach and like did the work and whatnot. And then when I got past that level, I surprised myself, and I was like, that's enough, Like I was already past a level that I was like.
Well, I wonder how much of it, like you already cast yourself out, and you already said everything you just said, like I wonder how much of it then in your performance you were just so calm and free,
let go,
and didn't care.
But also
there's that sexy indifference or whatever.
Yeah, there is. But also put the work in that I didn't want to just go in and make up an accent. And
right.
Now I wanted to sound like as authentic, and it worked. But it doesn't mean just because it worked that it was right again.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I paid for like a dialect and like coach and whatnot, and then to look back, I was like, I'm glad I did the work, but I was proud of myself for stepping away from it. So I was like, no, and this was early on, and also back then the stuff that was happening casting, I couldn't believe some of the stuff. Like I get auditions for things, and it was just like laziness of like my agent would talk it up and it's like, oh my god, it's the boy next door, blah blah blah, he's funny, he's blah blah, and then you get the audition, the breakdown's all fat guy number 2, and I was like, that's not what you described to me. And it's like, but he was selling it, so he would go to the audition. Things that were like so like, you're a writer, can't you think of a better description for a character than this line? And it's gotten better, but that was like early on in my career. That's the kind of description for characters that I would get.
I still get though.
Yeah, and it's just like it just sounds so. Isn't there a way to use the words that you're a writer? You should be really good with words and being like charismatic, full body, just like wording that sounds a little different. Corn-fed, all American, corn-fed boy.
I saw Mike Schur, right? That's his name, Parks and Rec, and Good Place. I saw a clip on social media that said on Parks and Rec, he specifically gave every character a name to make them feel better. Like it wasn't fat guy, it wasn't janitor, it was Bill Brasky, Adam Anderson. Like he gave full names to everyone, and I'm like, that is so kind and thoughtful.
It's human.
Because it's also when you look at your credits, then that looks like a credit rather than
like literally
garbage man,
or like fat guy number 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Imagine going to a movie premiere, and you're like, I got my big break, and it's like, here it comes, and it's like the credits are rolling. Fat guy number 2. What do you think, Mom? It's just I think sometimes it's like laziness, because you could have easily given a name. That's the way to do it. That's why that's good writing. That's a show like that succeeds.
Yeah.
When you're lazy and just like
it's just such a
it's just like going out for slut.
It's just
which
such
I've gone out for.
Thoughtful gesture too. I feel like something that nobody would have noticed had he not even mentioned it. But when he does call it out, it's like very kind.
Yeah.
When you like, and part of me, if this is a bad question, but when you're at your level. And you have like a team, like when I was emailing you, you had a team of people helping you out. When you get a self-tape, do you have a team of people that are helping you with a do you have any, if you're not coaching, do you have like a reader or do you have an assistant that you make read with you?
Yeah, I usually
like
make someone like, usually what I do is with friends, during the looking back at like my career stuff, you always get like you're always around like actors and stuff with your friends. Like usually actors help out each other. Like I remember like helping read like a friend Jazz who was like reading for something, and it was like for she's on Sabrina and like whatnot. I remember having actors who like ask, especially you do yourself a favor and a disservice when you're a good reader, because then people are gonna be like, hey, can you read for me? And then you become like the reader for a lot of friends, and you're like, damn, I'm booked this week. It's just like all reading with friends. I usually ask like friends, but now recently, if I don't go in person, I'd rather go in person. But if I'm gonna have to put on tape, then I'll have like someone read with me who's been doing it for a while, like my sister, who knows like my timing and like knows where I'm gonna pause and knows what to like read with me and whatnot. And she's great at it. Or, I don't usually have like an assistant read with me or anything. I try to get someone who's somewhere in the world of entertainment that knows what like, would be work and stuff. But for the most part, it's like asking another actor who is like, are you working on something this week? And it's like, no, I'm off this week. Oh, do you mind? I'll buy you lunch. Yeah. We'll go out for lunch, and after lunch, we'll put it on tape. And I used to have like friends. We used to have a friend. I have a friend now that still calls his studio J-Ro Studios, because everyone goes to his place, and he's the nicest, and he's the most talented actor too. And like he is a great reader, but also he goes full out. He'll set up the lights for you, set up the drop for you. So he was like another happy customer at J-Ro Studios.
That's really funny.
So
that became a big business for a little bit. Self-taping. Like I was in New York once, and I got an audition, and I did not have a space for it in the hotel, and I was like, and I looked at, there's like 30 actors that just literally had you come to their apartment and self-tape.
It's a quick way to make money too. You want to make an extra couple bucks, but Jason would never charge you. He'd be like, his house is open to you, which is great, because then you're like, I'll buy you lunch, whatever.
Yeah.
But he had a success rate. Like, he had a high success
That's
rate at
cool.
J-Ro Studios. Like, every time...
You should charge,
and
honestly.
one of his friends would book something, it'd be like another happy customer
That's
because
great.
the lighting was good, the sound was good, he reads with you really well. And so I highly recommend J-Ro Studios because it's I booked so many things with J-Ro Studios. It's also like it makes you feel comfortable with a friend who's reading with you and whatnot. It makes you drop your guard of like anxiety of, oh boy, I gotta perfect this and whatever. And then sometimes you get really good bloopers with friends.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so.
But that's back to the self-tape versus Zoom. That's why I also love self-tapes because of that. It's just like much more comfortable.
Yeah. I like in person just because of the direction, and I like in person because eventually you're gonna have to do it in person.
I know that's the thing
And
too.
so if you're hoping to do it on tape and then saying like I booked it, and then thinking that you're gonna do exactly what you might have done on tape, it could be that way, but you're eventually gonna get to set, and the director's gonna be like, I like what you did, but not that. Do this,
Yeah.
and that might throw you off. You're like, whoa, But I did it the way I did it in the tape, and you liked it. And it's like, right, we liked your look, we liked this. We just want to tweak this, and if you have to be able to adjust, because if you're not able to adjust, then I've seen it happen. People lose a job on the day of.
You've seen that?
Yeah, I see it happen. People get to set. I'll never forget. We were on the table read for Eye Candy, for the MTV show, and at the table read, we had the cast and we had the ingenue Victoria, and then we had a lead boy playing her love interest. And it was just an off day. Like, the table read was streaming live with LA, and we're also in New York at the Viacom building, and we're all having table read, and something's off. Like, it's just the chemistry is not the way it was before, and also the lead boy at that point had played basketball the night before and got hit on the face, and so he came and he was just like bruised up, and it was just not the best day for him, and it was unfortunate. Because we all exchanged info, like, oh my God, let's go to dinner. Here we are, 4 months in New York. It's the first day of the table read, and it's a Friday, and we're starting to film Monday. And we all exchange info and Instagram and whatnot. And we leave the thing, and then before that, MTV's like, hi to the director at the time, was Catherine Hardaway, goes like, can we talk to you for a second? It's like, oh, okay, well, see you later. Okay, bye. And we leave out. We leave the door, and like we go exchange info. And then by the time I get to my apartment, literally, by the time I get, because I went shopping or whatever and dinner and stuff, by the time I get to the apartment, the boy is at the airport.
Oh.
And he's on his Instagram, and it was like, sometimes life gives you lemons, or sometimes life doesn't go the way you expect it. And I was like, what happened? It's been like a couple of hours since I saw them. They're at the airport. They had packed up their bags, thought they were doing. No. Monday morning, there's a new boy playing that part on set. Like, not even the first day on set, at the table read.
That's insane.
And I was like, and the anxiety of that was like, and you're on set, you're like, the first day, you're like, what did they do? And then, word travel around, I was like, it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Chemistry doesn't work. We thought it could work, and we had a chemistry, and it looked like it would work. And it was just like, that day he didn't perform at his best because he probably wasn't feeling himself. He was hurt, he had a bruise on his face.
Yeah.
It was just not his best day. And it happens, we're human.
It's interesting you said that about self-tapes. Like, you got to do it on set, because I interviewed a director a couple months ago, Tara Millet. She did like lessons in chemistry, the last couple episodes of that. And she said they had a guest star who couldn't not do his lines. Mm-hmm. And she was literally there just feeding them to her. It was so bad. And I'm like, yeah, that is probably detrimental for some people when they are reliant on self-tapes, or who knows, maybe they're teleprompting or whatever.
It's offer.
Yeah.
And then you get an offer and you get to like set, and you are not what they were like, wait, how did you work for the last 40 years? It's like, that happens, it could easily happen. That's my biggest worry, is like, if I get an offer, it's like, I hope I'm what they want,
That is
and then
stressful.
When you get there,
you don't feel like you earned it.
Right. Or like, what do you want? Because this character I've never done before, or whatever, that, hey, you could do it. I did a guest star. It was for Selena Gomez's show, where she's producing, not for Murders, but she's producing
Waverly Place?
Waverly Place, but the spin-off of that, which, I got a call on Friday. They're like, hey, they want you to play this part. I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, that's Selena's show, and blah, blah. And it starts Monday. And I was like, oh. I was like, but I'm in New York. And I was like, oh, well, I can't make it Monday for the table read. And then I had to fly in this weekend, get to their fitting, and then start filming on Tuesday. It was so quick.
That is a whirlwind. I can't even imagine.
It was a whirlwind, and I did it, and it was a really cool character. I can't wait, to do it. But those are the fun stuff it's almost like a farce, It's like the Disney shows and whatnot. Again, it was like, well, you don't need to do it because it's a 3-cam, blah, blah. I was like, I love 3-cam. 3-cam is like so fun. And reminds me of I Love Lucy and like the old like sitcoms and whatnot. So it's fun to do one of those once in a while. Like, palate cleanser.
How much are you auditioning right now? Like in a given month? How many, or a week? How much? Like, do you go out a lot?
I honestly, I've been auditioned. I've been very fortunate that it's been half 50-50. It's like offer and then also auditions. But audition wise, I mean, after Shadows, I went straight to production. Like since Shadows wrapped, I've done like 4 films. And so that's a lot. And like we've only wrapped for a year, you know what I mean? For a little over a year. And so I went pretty work consistent, and without that being voiceover, guest stars, I do voiceover on my days off. Like when I'm not on set, that's when I book voiceover. So on my days off from being on live action, that's when I do cartoons and whatnot. But it's been very fortunate, because I've been on shows that are recurring, like Hell of a Boss is something that I'm filming right now for Amazon. But also cartoons that like I was on recurring for seasons. Like I was one of the leads on the Mickey Mouse show that was like ongoing for like the last 5 years. Stuff like that where it's like I've been constantly working and auditioning, and I've been auditioning for stuff and then it doesn't come to fruition. Do you know what I mean? Then I'm like, oh man, I didn't get that, but I still have a job the next day because I'm working on something that's been already set.
So I guess the question then, sorry to interrupt you, is not how much are you auditioning? How much in a year, how many weeks are you working then?
For the last year, last couple of years, I think the ongoing joke that my agent says is like, we have to make some time for you to take a vacation, which is nice.
Yeah. Good for you.
But also that's because for a decade you weren't working, you know what I mean? So when the work is there, I like to take it. I rarely say no. I have said no to a couple of projects this year just because the characters are kind of similar to something I've already played, and it would be such a time commitment to play something that I've already played, and it feels like I don't want to feel repetitive. It's like sometimes people come and like, well, I offer you this role. It's kind of like Guillermo. And I was like, well, I already did Guillermo. It's like, I did that for 6 seasons, It's like, can I do that? I actually did this sort of movie recently where they offered me one of the lead roles in the movie. It's shot in Arizona, in Mexico for 3 months. And I was like, oh, and the character's like pretty close to something I've already played. And I read the script. I was like, can I play this character? And they're like, oh, that character shoots in and out like in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay. And like, but it's not as big as a role. The other one is like, I don't care. Like, It's like, I don't need to have a bigger role to make a really like cool, defined character. It's like, is it nice to be the lead? Of course, but it's also, how's that going to level you up to like your craft?
Yeah.
It's like
that's the theme of this podcast for you. There's no small parts. There's only... Well, how's that?
Small actors.
Small actors.
Yeah, and it's true. And it's true because I could take a role that's only 2 lines, and people can walk away from the movie like, oh my god, you're blah blah, as opposed to being the face they see every 20 seconds, and it's just like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And to me, it was like more important to make that character more memorable than it is to be seen
for sure
every second on screen.
You mentioned voice work. Did voice work so hard to break into? I feel
it
like
is.
Did you start getting voice because you've done a ton of it, as you alluded to?
But I only started in the pandemic.
Oh, I was just going to ask. Did that come after you had already had some success? And was that like something where they were like, will you audition for this? Or we know you, we want you for this?
It came, when was it? It was during the pandemic. I had an offer to do Owl House for Disney. And it was because the casting director was a fan of Shadows. And they were like, oh my God, I love that show. It was very nice. Like, it was a character, something similar to Guillermo. And I was like, oh yeah, it'd be fun to play that in a voiceover. And I'd never done voiceover because I've tried for years. Try for years. And it's just hard. You got to think about voiceovers. Like every actor who's maybe hit the pavement running with like, I want to be an actor. I want to do movies. I want to do action. I want to do love, I want to comedy, everything rom-com. And then they hear, no, you're not tall enough. You're not thin enough. You're too this, you're too that, you're whatever. It can get to you. But the one thing with voiceover you can only rely on is your performance is with your voice. That's it. You got to be able to convey a story with your voice. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how tall you are. I don't care how old you are. If you can convey a story with your voice, you're the person for the job. But imagine everyone trying to get that job because they try to do live action, they try to do everything in front of the camera, and it's not working out. Imagine how many bodies are shifting over to voiceover. It's a tough gig to get because I tried for years. No, I would audition. Every week I'd have like at least 2 to 3 voiceover auditions, never book it. I would come close, but it always goes to someone who has a resume, you know. But it's because people like to work with people they like, and so like it's hard to get in. There's not an opening. It's like a club. It's like a private club.
Yeah, it really is.
It really is.
Because it's like that's like a business where once one person gets in, they do so much stuff.
And they stay in.
Yeah.
And once they decide to leave, if they ever decide to leave, or there's an opening for you, whatever the time runs out, people retire. Oh, we have one opening. Everybody wants to get that opening because it's that one opening you need to be like seen. And then once you get in, you're foot in the door, you're in. And so I got in with Owl House, and then a couple weeks later, they asked me to I did a session, and they loved it, and they're like, would you audition for this new Mickey Mouse Funhouse? You'd be joining an existing sensational like 6, you know, which is like Daisy, Donald, Mickey, you know, all
Goofy,
Goofy, all of them. You're joining this cast of already established characters, and you're the new friend. You're
cool!
Funhouse.
Yeah.
So you're a talking house, and they go on adventures together. I've always wanted to play a house, so I was like, yeah, and I did it, and it was so fun. And the creators and everyone at Disney is so great about that, and we did that for 4 seasons.
That's amazing.
So during that, I also got Perrito and Puss in Boots, and that was probably one of the harder roles to ever play because you had to convey such empathy, strength, and remember this character was complex, and there was a scene I remember reading where he's telling the story about being abused by his family. They put him in a sock with rocks, and they play this fun game where they throw him in the river with rocks in a sock. And
you're not saying that's fun. That's just what they say in the film.
That's what he was saying. And the way that they wanted to play it originally was that he was kind of like telling a sad story. And I was like, people who know they've had a hard life usually don't dwell into the martyr side of it. They make light of it because they can't stand to dwell in the martyr side because it'll be too painful to relive it. So I remember doing that like scene, and I was like, can I play it the opposite? Can I be optimistic and fun and like whatever? And they're like, yeah, try it. And that's where that scene, it's like almost painful to watch because he's like, I used to play this fun story with my family. It's hilarious. You know, it's like making light of the situation. And the more you hear the details, I remember like Salma Hayek's character of Kitty goes, that's the saddest story I've ever heard, you know? And because you hear it and you're like, that's not fun. That's a sad story, you know?
Yeah.
And this poor character, this dog who pretends to be a cat, to be in a house full of cats and be fed and taken care of. He wants to be a therapy dog. Imagine being through so much pain in your life that you still want to help others, which was a really like complex thing. I was like, I know we're talking about animation, but animation has a really great, formula to get to you.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and it gets to you in the way where like, I mean, the film was nominated for an Academy Award, and even Guillermo del Toro, who was up that year and won for Pinocchio, like he came and like literally said, I love the movie. Like he was giving us such high praise for the movie. And I was like, see, like when you do animation, like sometimes people are like, oh, poo-poo at it because it's a cartoon. But it's like sometimes great stories are being told in whatever format, stop motion, animation, you know, silent films. As long as you're moved and you're like touched by a story, then it did its job. That art form succeeded.
Yeah.
You walked out of that movie theater thinking something, you're like, wow. And so I remember doing that as probably one of the harder roles, and Perrito, and people were like, oh, we should do another one. It's like, who knows, you know, maybe. But like, yeah, voiceover is hard. Like, and then after that, I got a call from Sony, and it was all of them from Sony, the executives are like, we love what you did with Perrito, so sweet and endearing, and we would love for you to do that with Odie in Garfield. And I was like, oh my God,
that's awesome.
Doesn't Odie not talk? Exactly. We love for you to say nothing. And it's like, what? We love for you to convey a story because we figure if you can do it with words, you can do it without words.
That's amazing.
And so it was one of the hardest things to do because...
But not for you, I feel like. I feel like you could figure it out.
I did figure it out because I was like, he's angry, he's frustrated at Garfield, he's blah, blah, blah. And it's all done, you know, it's like sound effects where it's just you making sound effects. You're not even using words.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is crazy. But great for me because no one had to dub me in other countries.
Yeah. That's funny. That's really funny.
Because it was me.
Let me talk about your reps. So, like, something actors struggle with, and we got like 10 minutes left. Something actors struggle with, especially at my level, is like, how much do they talk to their reps? When do they check in? You mentioned that they had a one-line audition that they told you about and they said they declined, but then you took, like, do you have regular check-ins with your reps? Do you want them, how much do you want them filtering stuff? Like, what's your relationship like with them?
I have a rule with my reps, and they know that, like, even when something goes through the office, they don't make a decision for me. Like, in the past, I've had, like, people that would submit or send over an offer or something. Like, we turn it down. It's beneath you. And I made it very clear early on. It's like, I'll decide.
Good for you.
At the end of the day. I know
That's
you're part of
hot.
the team. That's hot. I was like, I'll decide what's underneath me, you know? And they were like, oh, well, I was like, we're part of a team. At the end of the day, I want to book the gig because I want to get the gig. You don't get paid unless I get the gig. And so I'll decide like what's, you know, we'll talk about it and have a conversation, but a rule of thumb is don't ever pass on anything until you pass it in front of me. Sometimes they'll assume like, I know what you're going to say and this blah, blah. And yeah, I'll pass on it, but it was my choice. And I had the last call, you know?
Yeah, you want agency.
Yeah. And I remember being with an agency early on because you were told this was a routine that just wait for them to call you. And you wait and then people, I remember talking to other actors and they're like, well, what's going on with this? Like, they haven't talked. I left them a message like 2 weeks ago, but they're busy. They're like, they rep A, B, and C. So, and I was like, oh, if your agent's too busy to give you a call in 2 weeks, they're not thinking about you.
No.
If you have to chase your agent and remind them that you're there, they're not submitting you because you're the last thing on their mind. If they couldn't even pick up the phone to call you back the same day or within that week, you're not top priority. I always say when you're with an agent, it's like a relationship. It's like being in a marriage. I have to still get the butterflies. You have to think about me when I'm not there.
Oh.
And you have to think about me and like you should be daydreaming about me. Be like, what's he doing? What's he doing? Let me check in with him. You know, text, email. The second you stop thinking about me and you start focusing your attention, even though it might be another client or whatnot, but you are having lunch with them, you are checking in with them. That's who you want to be with. You don't want to be in a marriage with me. You're going to be in a marriage with them. You're in love with them. If you're in love with them, then go be in love with them. I need a partner who's in love with me.
Yeah.
So my partnership with you is like I'm thinking about my career and I'm in love with my career, and you should be thinking about me being in love with my career, you know?
Yeah.
So if you're not thinking about me, that means we're not in the same partnership. That means your eyes are wandering. And I always think it's funny.
You're monogamous with
Yeah, I think if you want an open relationship, then go be with someone who wants an open relationship.
But so do you have regular correspondence with your reps?
Yeah.
Are you checking? Do you have like a regular meeting or
The
a
second
regular
something
check-in?
comes up, or I see something that's been greenlit or something, like I'm like, oh, and it's like already on it. Like it's like I sent a deadline article like this movie, blah blah blah. It's like that would be I already called them.
Sure.
I already called it because we're already thinking.
That's
alike,
great.
You know, it's it's just like if you were good at Costco or something, and be like, hey, I already got it. I already put in the cat.
Wait, let me ask you a stupid question though. Like for this podcast, like I was talking to your assistants, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do your agents know you're here right now? Do any of your reps know you're?
All the PR stuff there's different departments. So like when I do publicists,
Yeah.
like it's like PR knows, but that's not the department that their job is to get me an audition in the next gig.
Right.
So when it comes to PR, that's not their department. PR is department, and everyone gets paid for that. So PR gets paid for this, and so if there's a question or something to do with any appearances or podcasts or anything, that's their department. So they, everyone has a category, and that's why they're in that category. That's what it takes a team.
Yeah.
Just like, so when you talk to assistants, they filter it over and blah, blah, and set up the meeting, and they look at the calendar and blah, blah. It takes a village, to make everything work, but it makes it work, because then it's like things shift and moving parts are always happening.
Yeah, these are problems I can't even relate to.
But eventually,
well, not problems, but thoughts. I can't even imagine
having. Like I was like, I'll always be the one who's answering every email, and it's like if you were the one answering every email, eventually you will need someone to help you.
Oh yeah.
Because if your time is consumed with returning every email and trying to figure out your schedule, you didn't learn your lines, and you get to set and you're not ready. My job as the actor is to get to set and be ready to perform.
Yeah.
And if I'm so busy trying to figure out schedule and figure out when to do this interview and blah, blah, that takes most of your time. That's a full-time job. And then by the time you get to set, you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't learn my lines. And then it was like, oh, that was a bad scene. We're not hiring you again. Oops, you just got fired. And then you lost, and you don't need an assistant anymore because you don't have a job. You don't have a job, you're not working.
Right.
So it's needed, I think, eventually.
You just wrapped up a bunch of Emmy stuff. Like you presented at the Creative Arts. Didn't you you announced the nominations, didn't you?
I announced the nomination.
Like how does that stuff come about? Is that something where your agents or your PR submit you to them, or do they reach out to you, or do you make it known that you want to do it?
I think it's a little both. And I think recently before that, I had just met Chris Obrego, who is at the Academy, and him and I, we're talking about something, and I think he just mentioned it. He's like, you should present them? And I was like, okay, and I was like, so he said he would take it to like the board and stuff. And it's taken to like some, and the people have to check off on it. And then Brenda Song and I did it together, and then Brenda Song and I became friends, and then ended up seeing Backstreet Boys together in Vegas like a couple of weeks later for our friend Billy's birthday. And yeah, it's just sometimes it's just at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And the goal was this year to actually get the nomination for supporting in a comedy, which didn't happen. But if it did, it would have been great, because for all the seasons that we did the show, we never got personalized nominations, except for last year. Matt got one, and we were all rooting for you, because they overlooked the actors. We got the Emmy for costume. We were nominated for writing, directing. Everything was not. We got so many nominations, but not for the acting. Which is so weird, because it was like, wait, don't you watch the show to tune into the stories about these actors who portray these characters? But we didn't get the nomination, and I would have loved to get the nomination, because it would have made history as the first queer Latino to like get the nomination for a supporting role. And
It's never happened. Wow.
And so to this day, I know that was my reaction when I was
that was my reaction when Trammell won, and they're like, "This is the first black man that's ever won." I was like,
"Yep,
how can that be?"
Yeah, and and last year Anna Sawai made history as well. So it's like we
wild.
forget that we've been doing this for a long time. over half a century, and still there's levels to be passed and doors to be open.
Speaking of queer, I saw. I don't know if that's the right segue.
I don't know.
I saw you said.
That's right. Speaking of queers,
I saw you said you want to be considered for Oh Mary, which I just saw it in New York.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible. How do we make that happen? Yes, you should be Oh Mary.
Putting things out of the universe sometimes is a good thing, because it comes back.
I think so too.
Forward. And I feel like putting it out in the universe has definitely started a dialogue and a conversation. And who knows? That's what I'll say. Who knows if that, or opportunities happen when you say it out loud.
Agreed.
And you put things out in the universe. And I think that's safe to say that the director and I have been talking about creative stuff, and without saying things officially, specifically to one project or another, that dialogue has happened.
That's great.
And it's a great conversation to have.
And they're rotating so frequently, like...
Yeah, but you never know. You put out into the universe one thing, and then because of that one thing, you never knew what was in development somewhere else, and you never know what's happening somewhere else.
Teaser.
So it's good to know, because I would gladly go into Mary, and I hope it lasts a long time. I think it's such a great vehicle, and Cole, I've been such a fan of Cole's for so long. I mean, I remember bringing Cole videos to set and showing people of like how funny and talented this human being is, and I have such respect for that kind of humor and talent. It reminds me of like Amy Sedaris,
sure,
and which he did a show with Amy Sedaris, and that's another example of, I was supposed to do At Home with Amy Sedaris. And I was doing a film, Werewolves Within, who was the same casting director, and I was on filming that film at the time. And they saw that I was on set, and they were like, "Oh, they offered you a role, but we said no to it because we know you're filming the movie." I was like, "What did you film?" I was like, "Oh, I filmed on Monday." I was like, "I was off Monday."
Oh.
And I was like, I was always check with the talent, because you never know how shifting the schedule's happening. So I was off the day that they wanted me to film this character for At Home with Amy Sedaris, and I love Amy Sedaris. So that was one of the moments where it broke my heart. I was like, no.
And then you changed the rules. Always check.
Check with the talent, because things shift without the casting directors know. They shifted scenes around on set. They don't call and tell the casting that. Right. They just assume he's busy, he's on set. I wasn't. I could have done it, and to this day is the one thing that I'm like, I kick myself over.
Oh, that's frustrating.
But things happen for a reason, and it'll be fine.
Everything's fine. The last question I like to ask is, who took a chance on you?
I think the first person to ever give me my SAG card, and the project was for with Judy Greer, which is weird because I just did a movie with her. And so the casting director who takes a chance on you is kind of like the first person to take a risk, because there's a lot of paperwork to be drawn. But people for film like Julie Ashton,
Wait, who was the casting director on?
For
the Judy Greer thing.
It was two casting directors. No, and now you put me on the spot, and I'm going to be like, oh no.
We'll put it in post.
Blah 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 blah. No. No, I have.
The show was misguided, right?
The show was misguided, which I could look up right now and literally tell you in 2 seconds. Right?
No,
right? Wait. I can literally.
This is
look at
real
it.
time.
No, because
this is the problem when you don't have a producer. Somebody could be looking it up for us.
Oh, there it is. See Judy Greer. Oh, this is so sweet. As I go down memory lane, I'm like, oh, look at this. No, it was the cast and crew. This is. I'm gonna kill me.
Take your time. There's no.
Yeah, it was Lisa Miller Katz. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Miller Katz. Yeah, I've got him for them.
Yeah, and Brett. Yeah. Yeah,
that's awesome. You were like, that was when you were young then, weren't you? Like 18, 19, 20?
I was, 1920. Yeah, this is the casting directors. Also, there was somebody who really kind of, you always think of the casting associates at the time. Oh, yeah. They really do the work.
That's who I'm meeting with later this afternoon. The Zoom audition is a casting associate.
Is it? Yeah, because they're the people who are going to be running this town tomorrow, but they're the ones who really do the paperwork and stuff to get you, all going. Yeah.
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 Harvey, this was a delight.
It was a delight. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being here.
Putting me on the spot. I'm excited.
It's important to remember who took a chance on you. So now you'll never forget her name.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, though. Tail Slate at the end here.
Hi, I'm Harvey Guillen. Thanks for watching.
That's great, buddy.
Yay.